Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In this video, we are taking a look at the state of Apple devices for video and music creation in 2019. Is the iPhone 11 worth the upgrade? Is the new iPad an improvement on the old one? And will iOS 13 and iPadOS be the game changers that we are hoping for? Well, stick around. I'm answering these questions and a whole lot more. But if it's your first time here, who am I and what is this? Well, my name is Pete, and this is Studio Live Today, where my goal is to help you create, record, and release your best music. So if that's the sort of thing that you're into, especially in the mobile creation world, as we'll be talking a lot about today, then consider subscribing. Now, the format of today's show is going to go a bit like this. I'm going to do a 10-minute overview. So what I like to do is, for those of you who are time poor and are like, just give me the facts, Pete, I want to know the basics, and then I'm going to move on. We're going to go through that in the first 10 minutes and you'll be all set and good to go. I'm then going to deep dive into three main categories. We're going to talk about iOS 13 and iPadOS. So what are the changes that are coming up for those for existing devices that you may own? We're going to talk about the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max. Yes, we'll be talking about Apple and their naming conventions, I'm sure, as we go through that. And then we'll be talking about iPads, the state of iPads, the new iPad 10.2 inch, because, you know, Apple didn't have enough different sizes and different types of iPads apparently. So that is what we'll be covering in the first 10 minutes. The deep dive. But firstly, we're going to do a 10-minute overview. A question for you, if you're here live or if you're watching on the replay, my question for you is, if you could have one device, one Apple device for music making, would you choose an iPad, an iPhone, or a Mac? MacBook or MacBook Pro, something like that. It's an interesting question, and I'll tell you my answer, and I'll reveal the answer to the poll that I have on my community tab here on the channel at the end of the show as well. But if you have your own thoughts on that right now, drop those in the comments if you're here live, or leave me a comment. I'm always down there in the comments reading what you have to say, and I appreciate all of your support there. Now, I've got a couple of websites I'm just going to let you know about. There's one at studiolivetoday.com/iPad, which is where you can check out all my recommendations around iPads, and studiolivetoday.com/iPhone. And there you'll find the video that I did about a year ago. It's due for an upgrade. It's about to get updated because I need to update it with all of these new devices. So if you go there now, it'll have the old stuff there, but in the next 24 hours, it'll be updated. And now that I've committed to it live on air, I have to do it. The other thing is, if you are in the market for buying some new gear, you absolutely don't have to, of course. And if you've watched this channel long enough, you know that I don't advocate just going and buying new gear for the sake of it. You're talking to a guy who's still rocking his iPad Air 2, and I'm a music creator and have a channel on YouTube all about mobile creation. So if I'm still getting away with some older hardware, you can too. But if you are in the market for any new audio recording gear, you can go to studiolivetoday.com/gear and check out the range of gear that I recommend there and what I use. Alrighty, so we are ready to jump into this summary. A quick hello to those that are here live. Hello, Alex. Hello, Amarasea. We've got Patrick Moonbirds here, Ultimato, Goth Demon, Edward Wojcinski, testing out my pronunciation, Benedict Stewart, and Andrew Graham. Hello to you all, folks. So we're going to jump in here and get on with my summary here. So, you may be aware that Apple had an event this week where they announced some new phones, they announced a new iPad, and a bunch of other stuff. So here is the key cliff notes. If you didn't watch the whole hour plus or any of the other videos about this, this is all the stuff that you need to know. So iPhone 11, the new one, the successor to the now completely obsolete, apparently. They don't sell this anymore, the iPhone XS. It's a 6-month-old phone, and now it's obsolete, or at least not sold anymore. So iPhone 11 comes out on September 20th, and pre-orders are available right now. It comes in 3 delicious flavors. You've got your iPhone 11, your base level, that's basically replacing the older iPhone 8. Well, not really, because the 8's staying. We'll talk about that later. We've got the base level. We've got the Pro, which has the funky 3 cameras and the OLED display, among other changes. And we've got the Pro Max, which is the bigger version. So Apple have completely ditched the Plus size, and now it's all about Max, and they've now added the Pro instead of, I guess, what would have been the S. So yeah, they've changed up their naming convention. So pretty much aligned with MacBooks and with iPads now. You've got your Pro, and then you've got your Pro Max. These start at 64 gigabytes of storage on the base level. They go up to 512 gigabytes, and the 512 gig models are all for the low, low price of all money. They are not cheap. So check out apple.com or your regional website to find out more about those. Now, each has a step up in features, with the Max, of course, having the larger screen as well. And here's the thing, all of them have a Lightning connector. Now, many folks, including myself, thought that with the new iPhone 11, the Pro models would actually move to a USB-C connector. The fact that they're using the Pro naming convention, I honestly thought that, like the iPad Pro, which uses USB-C, the new iPhone Pro would use a USB-C connector. They've stuck with the Lightning adapter. So it's not a terrible thing. In fact, if you're a music or a video or a content creator now, it's actually quite good. You get to keep all of the same gear that you already have. So that may actually be a plus for you. Now, iOS 13 is the new iOS version that will be dropping with these phones, and the rest of us should be able to get our hands on it around about the 20th of September. That's what we're being told at the moment. So that is going to be available. And just to rehash on that, if you've got your current devices, iPhone 6S and above, including the iPhone SE, I believe, are what you will need to actually run that. So if you're running a 6 or a 5S or anything earlier, you're going to be stuck in iOS 12 limbo land forever. So if you're looking to upgrade to the new iOS 13, which has a bunch of features, which we'll be talking about later in the show here, then you will need at least an iPhone 6S. All right, let's talk iPads now. So the new iPad is slightly bigger. So yes, it does they did a lot of work here to tell you all the new features and why it's so good, but here's the real deal. It's the 2018 iPad with a smart keyboard connector and a 10.2 inch screen instead of a 9.7. So you get half an inch more screen, and you get a smart keyboard connector if you want to connect Apple's super duper mega smart keyboard to your iPad, which costs about half as much as the actual iPad. Anyway, so the big news here is, though, that it's $329. So what Apple have done here is they've clearly positioned this for someone who's like, maybe I'll get, a Galaxy Tab, or I'll get one of these cheap, an iPad. The new iPad for only $329, sign me up. So yeah, Apple have been quite clever with this whole announcement in that they've positioned a device. It's almost like one for the whole family. Like, just buy a different device. Everyone in the family can have an iPhone or an iPad. So that is the main thing there. Now, if you've got a 2017 or 2018 iPad, would I recommend an upgrade? Probably not. If, like me, you're still rocking an iPad Air 2 or earlier iPad Air, one of the iPad originals, then yeah, this may well be worth an upgrade. But the other good thing it does, all of these announcements, and anytime there's new Apple devices, I like it because it means that refurbished models and secondhand models that you can pick up are going to be even more affordable. So the best thing this does, from my view, is things like the older iPad Pros and the older iPad 2018s that are still really, really good devices are going to be even cheaper because people are going for the new and the shiny. So that is my take on that. Now, in terms of the iPhone, what would you upgrade to an iPhone 11? Well, if you have an iPhone 10 or 10s or even iPhone 8, I don't think you're getting a whole lot of benefit. The specs are better, but there's no game changers there. Like, unless you really want that third wide-angle camera on the Pro and the Pro Max, you're not really getting a whole lot of anything that much different. So, yeah, would you upgrade? Probably not. If you're on an iPhone 6 or a 6S or a 7, then yeah, maybe you would actually update. And as I mentioned before, the weird thing is that they've kept the 8 around. They kept keeping the XR or 10R, but they're completely removing the 10S. And that's a little bit strange, but again, it's because they want to have a phone that they can position at the entry level. So you can still get an iPhone 8, quite affordable for someone that wants something basic. I know, iPhone 8 basic. They've then got the iPhone 10R, which is like the last generation, and then they've got all the iPhone 11s, which is the new generation, starting with the iPhone 11. So that is it. There's some other things too. Apple Watch got a 5th generation Series 5 Apple Watch. There's the Apple Video service offering at $4.99 a month, and the Apple Arcade at $4.99 a month for the whole family. If you watched the address or the announcement, everything was for the whole family. It's like, yeah, we get it. You want us to buy devices and sign up to all these services and get our family into the Apple ecosystem at an early age. So what are my thoughts on all of this? I said I'd do my 10-minute rant and then I'd give you a bit of analysis. So, if I was to rate this in the old A, B, C, D, E, F kind of scale, this is a solid C. So A being this blew me away. I'm lining up literally to buy one of these devices. B being there's some interesting stuff there and I'll probably upgrade at some stage very soon. And C being meh. This is very much a meh announcement in my view. And hopefully, if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that I'm not going to tell you to rush out and buy all the things. I'm very much a practical person. I'm a needs based person. So it's all down to you and what your needs are. You may need none of this. You may be watching this and going, I don't even own an iPhone or an iPad. In which case, thank you for watching, and hopefully you learned something about the iPad and iPhone world. Or you may be thinking, yeah, here's what I want to do. I'm creating this sort of music. I'm creating these sort of videos. I'm happy with what I'm producing right now. I need none of this. But the thing is, as I said before, it just gives you an idea of what you may want in the future and what the future may hold for the iPhone, iPad, and the iOS ecosystem. So if you have your own views, your own comments, please throw them in the chat if you are here live. If you do have questions or comments about this and you're watching on the replay, then drop those in the comments as well. We're going to jump in and see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll go into our deep dive section where I'm going to talk about the iOS and iPadOS, the iPhone 11 and the new iPad, and give you more details about all of those so you can get up to speed. Alrighty, who have we got here? Ultimato, hello to you. Again, I think I said hello to you before here. So I asked that question before of what people would use. We've got a few here saying mostly iPads. So Amarcia, who I say the name, Amarcia, I say your name wrong every time. iPad Pro from Edward Wojcinski. iPad for Goth Demon, iPad. So yeah. Amarasea says, Steve Jobs' vision of what the iPad should be is the perfect in-between of an iPhone and a MacBook. Every year it gets closer to that perfection. Yeah, it really does. And we'll talk about some things with iPadOS and some of the things that are doing that's doing. And you'll find out what's going on there. Benedict Stewart Music says an iPad. And Andrew Graham says hello, but he probably came in afterwards. So yes, Jade Star, hello to you. But I need to chat to you, Jade. We haven't spoken in ages. Bland keynote, predictable. I'm only excited for iPadOS 13 as I have a new keyboard, mouse, and 2 terabyte hard drive ready. Yes, we'll be talking about that as we continue on here. And I think, yes, it sounds like you echo my thoughts on there that it's a solid C, which is like, yeah, meh. It's nothing new. I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't think there would be anything massive, but you know, there's no one more thing. We've lost the time of the one more thing where there's something exciting. The one more thing was we've got a new iPad. We've made the one slightly larger. So if you're a Simpsons fan, it's like the Game Station 256, slightly faster. Then Bart gets his 252 and throws it in the fire. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I'm like, I'm going to throw my 10S in the fire because, yes, it's obsolete. But yes, and Amarcia says, don't worry, it's not obsolete, just not sold by Apple. But the iPhone 6 and earlier are obsolete now, 100%. So yeah, unfortunately, iPhone 6 and earlier, unsupported, won't be a thing moving forward. Gino Therese, hello from Chi-Town. Yes, always good to see you. Great supporter of the channel, Gino. Always appreciate your support. My original iPhone XR cost nearly $1,000. To get the second one would now cost $740. So yes, everything becomes cheaper. And this is the thing, a lot of people say, when is the right time to buy? Do I buy at the announcement? Do I buy 6 months after? You know when the best time to buy a thing is when you need the thing. Like, am I sad? Am I really angry that I bought this, back in January, February, whenever I bought it, and now they've got a new one? Well, no, because I would have been using my broken iPhone 6 with the battery that lasted 2 hours instead of all the things I've been able to create and do with this. So yeah, that whole buyer's remorse, that whole bias towards, oh no, the new things. Yeah, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Question here from Andrew Graham. Hello, Andrew. Good to have you here. Are they upgrading GarageBand instruments? So we have had 0 news and 0 updates on any GarageBand update at this stage. So iOS 13 and iPadOS are coming, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Whether that brings an immediate update to any of their apps or whether their apps will change down the track. I find it hard to believe that they'll actually add in or change apps straight away. They've probably got enough to do ironing out the files integration and the mouse support and some of the other things, but you never know. Oh, Gino, have the iPadOS beta, whichever way you like to say it, installed already. Not really much difference I can see. Dark mode? Sure. Yes, dark mode for the win. Patrick, hello to you. Will my 27 iPad work with iOS 13? Yes, it'll be iPadOS, and it will work with, we'll get to this in a minute in detail, but iPad Air 2 and above. So if you've got an iPad Air 1, not the new iPad Air 1, but the original Apple, could you just call it the iPad Air 3? Anyway, if you've got the older iPad Air 1, no, but the 2017, the 2018, the iPad Air 2, you'll be in luck with those. And iPad Mini 4, you'll need 4 or 5 to actually run it. So there you go. And yes, iPadOS, desktop class Safari is the main thing. Yeah, so iPadOS is going to be cool because being able to browse is going to be very, very cool. Gino says that yes, the iPad for music creation. So if you're here new to the chat, or if you've just joined me live, I did ask the question of what would you use if you could have a Mac, an iPhone, or an iPad? What would you use for music creation? Just one of those. Basically, everyone said iPad so far. And Derek has answered the question as well. So the new iOS, the new iPadOS, will work from the iPad Air 2 and up. Hello, Guzzo of Oz. Hello to you. iPad waiting to update. Yes, well, I would, yeah, my advice is that I don't actually know, because when I first saw it, I was like, maybe I literally just update my iPad Air 2 to the new iPad, and then reading the specs, which we'll talk about in a minute, I'm not convinced. I think I'd be better spent buying the iPad Air or saving up and spending it on a Pro and eventually joining the Pro world. I kind of need a Pro with the USB-C so that I can actually do tutorials, because people ask me about how do I connect stuff, and I just send them Jade Star's way and say, ask her, because she's got all the connections going on there. So, off topic. You know what the most disappointing part of the keynote was? I watched Apple Watch Series 5 make a standalone watch already, and always on screen isn't worth part of a keynote. Well, yeah, I mean, I rock the Fitbit, whatever this is called, Surge Arrestor. I don't know. It's a Fitbit watch, and I get my messages on this. I can't send messages. I can't talk to it. I can't do all those things. I will eventually want a smartwatch that does all the things, but for now, this actually suits me fine, and I'm not really in the market for one. So hello to Chrissy. I've been beta testing. Oh, I got to settle on one, don't I? Beta, iOS 13, and there's nothing new for GarageBand. Yeah, no, nothing new at this stage, unless when the official release comes out, they decide to drop some new apps. Brian says he's got the 10.5 Pro. Yes, 10.5 Pro is probably what I go for. Probably the Gen 2. Rather than the brand new one. Although, again, like I said, maybe I need the USB-C port. Marcus, hello to you. Always great to see you here in the live show. Anxiously waiting for iPadOS and iOS upgrades. Yes, not getting the new iPad and phones, though, maybe next year. And I think your sentiment is the same for most people. I think a lot of folks who are creating already and already do have devices probably have an iPhone 7, 8, or 10, as I said before, and probably don't need an 11, and probably have themselves a Pro or an Air or one of the 2018 iPads, and they're probably not looking to update as well. Darren Bryant, I wonder, I have yet to see any specs as far as how much RAM is going to come on any of them. And yeah, they never talk about the RAM, do they, in the keynotes? If anyone has that or wants to look it up while we're here, I'll add that and we'll talk about it here. But I haven't done the numbers yet. What I will be doing is updating my guide. I've got a nice matrix of all the different iPhones and iPads, and I think RAM is in there. Could be mistaken. If it's not, I'll add it. So I've got like a nice spreadsheet that I maintain that has all the different models. And yes, the rest of Pete's Sunday will be updating all of these new models with all of the specs. So yes, spare a thought for me, but I do this as a community service for the community. Alrighty, let us jump on over and take a look at. So now we're going to deep dive into these. So how are we for time? We're 20 minutes in. We're going to have a drink, and then we're going to talk all things iOS 13 and iPadOS. So if you've got get your comments ready. A few folks have already said some things, but if you've got comments about that, let me know. Drop them in the chat here, or if you are watching on the replay, I still love you. Just leave a comment, and I will be back in there afterwards to chat to you about that. So What is happening? iOS 13 and iPadOS. So, if you are just catching up on all of this, Apple are splitting out the two different operating systems. So, your iPhones will move to iOS 13, and that will happen as of the 20th of September, which is just after the launch of the new iPhone 11 range. If you are running an iPad, you will be able to move to iPadOS 13. Yes, as of the 30th of September. So that is going to be a slight delay on that one because that's going to line up with the new iPads. At least that's the current information we have from Apple. It's always a little bit murky and grey there, but that's what we know for now. Now, there's been a bunch of betas that have been tested and that folks have installed. I haven't. And a few people have actually asked me, they're like, Pete, we were expecting you to install all this stuff and use it and tell us if it's good or not. And I'm a bit weird. I used to be like all about the cutting edge. I would download and install the public beta of everything and I'd try things out and I'd do all the things. What I've realized these days is as I get older, I don't have the time for the bugs and the errors and the issues. And because I do so many videos and I 100% rely on my iPad Air 2 and my iPhone XS as my daily drivers, they're with me all the time. As you can see, I'm not even using them, but they're always right here by my side. Then I can't really afford to do that. And I didn't actually have a device at the moment that I can use. I've just recently got an iPhone 7, long story, but we'll talk about that later, which I could have tried that on, but I don't have an iPad that could have got an iPad Air 1 as well as the 2, but that wasn't going to help me out. So that's why I haven't tested this, but I have been watching a lot of other people test it out and getting their feedback, and it's been mixed sort of reviews as they've gone through like the 6 different levels of the beta testing, but I'll just go through the things that I think are going to be cool and that I've been waiting for. So number one is USB drive and files integration. So I've been talking about this for a very long time. It's been on my list of features that we needed to have, and I've done a bunch of tutorial videos, which I'll be very glad become obsolete. I did a bunch of videos about the USB drives that you can use with iPads and with iPhones, about how to use wireless Wi-Fi file transfers, about the fact that you can't actually just use a Lightning to USB adapter like this one and plug in a USB drive and then access the files. So yes, I've been talking about this for a while, and I'm super excited that this is going to work. Now, some of the reports that have come in are that some apps don't show. So if you've got an external drive supported, the app won't actually see it. Folks like Jabe will be able to give us more information on this, but apparently that's being fixed and sort of the bugs are being ironed out. So the way it's supposed to work in a perfect world is you plug in your USB drive, it shows up as a files location, just like all your other files location. You're on my iPad, your iCloud drive, anywhere else, and then you can just transfer files as if it was part of your device. So that is something, if and when that works, it'll mean these things become super valuable. And again, for what I lose on the obsolete tutorials about file transfers, I'll probably gain on everyone wanting to grab one of these suckers, because you will desperately need one of these. You've got a Lightning adapter and you want your USB stuff with files being transferable. This is going to be gold. So that is what I'm most excited about. I actually like dark mode. I know Gino said it before. He's like, yeah, we've got dark mode. I like dark mode on all my things because it's just so much easier to use. I mean, Garageband is already a dark app, so that won't really do much for that. So is Imovie, so is LumaFusion. A lot of the apps I use, it won't influence that, but it's quite jarring when you're switching between apps and you go back to your screen and then you go to some other app and it's all bright and stuff. So having a nice dark background so that when you're in that creative mood, because I create in the morning. I know a lot of you create late at night, but I'm a morning creator guy. So yeah, when I'm creating in the morning, it doesn't like brightly wake me up and get me out of that creative mode. So that's going to be cool. I did talk about this at the time, but for iOS 13 and iPadOS, inter-app audio. So I know for music creators, this is a big one, because inter-app audio, if you didn't know what that is something that was introduced a long time ago, probably 7-8 years ago, around iOS 9 or 8 even, and it allows for different apps to actually send audio between each other. So if you're using GarageBand and you've got a sax app like the Central Sax, you can just tell it to send its data and it records it as audio from one app to the other. Now, it's recently been sort of taken over and superseded by audio unit plugins. So the benefit of audio unit plugins is that the app sits inside. So instead of it just talking to it, the app kind of integrates and implants itself into iOS, and you can use it directly in your digital audio workstation. So that is going to so what is happening here is that inter-app audio is being deprecated. Now, that doesn't mean it's going away immediately, but that means that Apple have plans to remove remove it, they won't be supporting it, and they won't be allowing new, as of iOS 13 and iPadOS, new apps that are looking to use audio integration will be needing to use audio units. So I know a lot of folks are a little upset about this because they love their inter-app audio, and a lot of plugin developers and instrument makers are a little bit behind the eight ball on this one because they've put a lot of time and effort into inter-app audio, and now it's going to go away. So I know that there's solutions around that. There's audio bus, there's AUM, there's ways to do it. So yeah, again, if you've got comments on this or you've got tips and advice for folks, let us know in the chat or in the comments. Now, I've talked about this, but what do you need to run them? Well, you need an iPhone 6S or better, including the iPhone SE. Anything earlier, 6S or better. A 6 will not run it. 6, 5S, 4, 3GS, if you've got that. And the iPod Touches, if you're asking about that the Gen 6, I believe, will run iOS 13. I need to confirm that. I'll confirm that when I do my updates today. But yes, you will need that. And for iPads, as we mentioned before, iPad Air 2 or better will be needed. Now, when Apple announced this a few months ago, they made a big deal about everything being faster. So everything's going to be much faster. You're going to be able to have your load times faster. Your apps are going to run faster. Everything will be faster. So for those that have used the beta, let me know. Are things running faster? Have you noticed a speed bump from using the new version? It'll be great to know that. iTunes. So what's actually happening with iTunes? Well, it's basically being replaced in terms of the iTunes store. It's now going to be Apple Music, Apple TV, Apple Movies, I think. So yeah, we're going with sort of the three different services. They're all going more to the subscription-based stuff. I think you'll still be able to buy songs in Apple Music, but it won't be the whole sort of iTunes experience. And I don't think it means the desktop app is going away per se, but it's pretty clear that Apple are putting all of their effort and time into subscription models and less effort and time into selling music. And this is no surprise. You look at the number of streaming platforms that you can release your music to now compared to the number of sales platforms. It's basically down to iTunes, Amazon, and the Google Play Store. And they're kind of the three places I still sell music. And let's be honest, who's actually buying music there? Most people just get a Spotify or a Google Play or an Apple Music subscription, and that's how they consume their music. So not too concerned about that. One cool thing with Apple Music that's kind of been lost in the weeds is it's adding real-time lyric support. Now, you might say, is that what? Huh? But look at the popularity of music-related video content, of karaoke-style videos. You got, Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat. A lot of people getting involved in this. So I wouldn't underestimate this in terms of if you're trying to release music and you want people to engage with your music, if they can play it and they've got your album artwork there and real-time lyrics are there, real-time lyrics are integrated, I think that's going to be kind of a cool feature. And I think that's one that's going to be a little underrated, but yeah, it'll take some people by surprise. So yeah, a little bonus tip there of something that's coming. Now, shortcuts. I've talked about shortcuts, and I'm a big fan of shortcuts. It used to be called Workflow, and now it's called Shortcuts. So this is the app that basically it's like an if this then that. It's kind of like an automation integration kind of app, and it does some great things. So I use it for zipping and unzipping. And I know a project I've been working with Jade on. I've used that to zip up big giant project files and then send them. And then when I get them back, I unzip them and throw them onto my iPad and my iPhone file locations. And it works really well for that. So good news is that Shortcuts, instead of being a standalone separate app, it's actually being integrated into iOS 13 and iPadOS. So you can set up your own shortcuts and everyone will have access to that. So I won't have to explain to someone you need to download shortcuts, then you need to set up these shortcuts. I can just say, here's a link to a zip shortcut, tap this, it'll install it straight into your shortcuts. You can zip and unzip files. That'll be super cool. Now, mouse support. So I've been doing a lot. I don't have it handy. I've been using it a lot. My keyboard, it's over there. In fact, my Logitech keyboard. I'm loving my Logitech devices at the moment. Logitech K480 keyboard, which is a Bluetooth keyboard, and I'm really getting the hang of using that for shortcuts in GarageBand, for typing up things, replying to YouTube comments on the go, all those sort of things, and basically using that in conjunction with my iPad as like a little mini laptop. And I know that's what Apple are all about. Well, they've added mouse support now. Now it's an accessibility feature, so it's not technically, a supported feature. But from the demos I've seen, again, I haven't used this personally, but I know, so Patrick over at the GarageBand Guide has been using this. I know, Jade, I think you've been testing it out. I think Gino said you've been testing. I'm not sure if you've tried the mouse support there, mate. But yeah, apparently it works pretty well. You can set up your right click and your left click to do different things, use them as long presses or use them as taps. It's not an arrow, but it's a dot. And apparently the dot started out like, comically large, and they've realized that they can reduce it down so that you can actually move it around a bit more like a cursor. I haven't tried it in GarageBand, but obviously as soon as it comes out and I install the real version, I'll be doing a big series of videos about GarageBand and other apps in iOS and iPadOS. So yes, we will be testing that and seeing if that is really the real deal. So there you go, iOS 13, iPadOS. Are you excited about these? What do you think? What do you think these are going to bring to us here? Interested to get your thoughts. So, quick drink. See if we have any comments from the chat here around here. So Chrissy says, I'd recommend the new Air, as that's basically a 10.5-inch Pro with some better internals. Yeah. The new Air is what I'll probably eventually go for because, again, I just like my Lightning stuff. I don't know. I'm so accustomed to Lightning, and yeah, I think it'll reduce the cost of those. I'll probably be able to pick up a refurbished one at around about that same price point as the new iPad itself. We've got some folks talking about the new Apple Watch. I didn't realize everyone's into the watch, but apparently it's because you're upgrading your Gen 1s up to the Series 5. And yeah, so here's the point. I probably didn't make this super clear, but the 10.2-inch iPad, actually, we'll talk about it in the deep dive, but yeah, it's only got the iPhone 7, so it's only got the A10 chip in there, which is, yeah, basically their 2016 model chip. Hasn't been updated since then. So yes, you're not getting the latest internals for that one. So Brian says, picked up the 10.5 this year, still has a lightning adapter. That was the deal breaker for me. The other iPads use USB-C. Yeah, and again, I don't know. I sit on the fence as whether I should sort of just take the plunge and go with the USB-C because it's the future and buy an iPad Pro that has that, or just stay with lightning because I'm in my comfort zone and I got all my lightning gear. We'll see. Ultimato, yes, rely on my iPad 2 heavily. iPad Air 2, 100%. I love that. Chrissy says, I'm currently testing iOS 13.1, which runs perfectly. Excellent. It's coming out the same day as iPadOS. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is where the confusion is coming in as to whether, because the new phones are coming out September 19 or 20, around that mark, iOS 13 is going to be there then, I thought. But maybe for us lay people, it's the 30th. Again, if you've got confirmation of this, it's weird. You go to the Apple website and there should just be a big thing on the front saying new phones available this date, iPads this date, iOS this date, iPadOS this date. Not so much. We will continue on. So we're talking about. So Amaracea says my YouTube is in dark mode right now. I like it. Yeah, I like the YouTube dark mode, actually. It looks really nice there. Brian Zimmerman recommends Audio Bus is the way to go. I've really got to get into this. Jade has been telling me for like years that I need to use Audio Bus and AUM, and I need to start using these 100%. I should definitely get into that as well. Yes, Marcus Nanderson. So we're talking about distribution. DistroKid sends your music everywhere. It sure does. I'm loving DistroKid. I recommend 2 different platforms if you're releasing music, just to get a little bit sideways here. DistroKid is $20 a year, $19.99 per year. In fact, there's a discount link in this very description of this video. In all my videos, I put my discount where you can get 7% off your first year. Sorry, this wasn't going to turn into an ad for DistroKid, but they let you release unlimited number of songs, unlimited albums and EPs. You can have a bunch of them on the go at once. You can release to all the platforms. They've recently added TikTok as a release platform, which I think is super cool and really interesting and shows where that's going in terms of social media. And they have some of the cool sort of beta features like lyrics support and uploading metadata on your songs. So I've started going back through my back catalogue and updating and adding lyrics, getting ready for this new Apple Music integration because, yeah, as soon as that goes live, Apple Music at the moment don't have your lyrics sort of playing, but they're sort of buried in the metadata. Once this actually goes live, then you'll be able to have that. So yes, I love some DistroKid as well. Brian says, what about all the non-DRM music we have saved in iTunes locally? I think you'll be fine. I don't think Apple are going to take away the ability to have your own music in your own phone. And that's why I think there'll be some version of the Mac and the PC iTunes app forever, because it's still currently the only way to get a song into your phone's music library. Like, I'm going to rant on this for a minute because I think it's actually ridiculous. So if you create a song in GarageBand, you save it out as an M4A file, Apple's preferred compressed file format, and you want to add that to your music library, you know what you have to do right now? You have to sync your phone or your tablet. Now, I don't know about you, but I use iCloud now. I very rarely sync these suckers to my PC. You have to sync it to your Mac or your PC. You then have to transfer that file into your PC or your Mac's iTunes library, put it in a playlist, make sure that playlist is active on your phone or your iPad, and then sync it back to your music library. You cannot take that digital file and say, go from my Files app into my music collection so I can play you. That is ridiculous. I don't rant on a lot of things, but that seems like an absolute no-brainer. I cannot work out for the life of me. It's got to be something to do with copyright and DRM, but I think it's just excuses. Anyway, I don't get fired up about many things, but that's one that every time someone asks me that question, I have to give that explanation, and they go, what the actual? Like, seriously, that makes no sense at all. Alrighty. Mouse support, yes. Now I'll be able to turn my iPad into a desktop, maybe, yeah. So the mouse support should be a good step towards that whole using, desktop replacement, sort of laptop replacement as your iPad. So should be pretty cool. So thank you, Chrissy's providing some great insights here. Big problem, iOS 13.0 automations are removed in shortcuts. However, it's been brought back in the 13.1. Yeah, this is what's confusing me as to the 13.0 and the 13.1. Are they pushing? So they're pushing out 13.1 on the 30th, and maybe it's 13.0 that's going out with the new iPhones on the 20th. I'm getting super confused. I should know this stuff, but it's just shows how hard it is to actually find. Michael, hello to you. As usual, if you change to USB-C, you have to buy a new adapter. Never included from Apple. Yeah. Again, it sounds like I'm ranting, and I am. But these things, I don't use headphones. I know they give you headphones with a lightning connector, but I don't want to use headphones with a lightning connector. They all suck. So I've bought 4 of these now, these little dongles. And yes, they're only $15, but that's $15 times 4. That's $60 that I've had to spend in the last 8 months just because I keep breaking and losing my little dongly doodles. So don't break and lose your dongly doodles. You'll be in all sorts of troubles. And I heard iTunes is going away completely. Yeah, there's mixed messages on that. Apple are obviously pushing you towards using iCloud, because then you have to buy more storage from Apple. I'm making them sound really evil. No. So I don't actually know whether it's going away completely. It won't be in the short term, and I don't think it is with this update. I think it'll be around for at least a while. Alrighty, let's continue on, because we're going to talk... I'll remove you there, Brian. We're going to talk about iPhone 11. And this is going to be quick because I'm not particularly overwhelmed by any of this stuff. I know that it all sounds all nice and sounds all shiny. You've got a matte black finish. You've got, what did they say? It's the hardest and most durable glass that they've ever used. So if you drop your phone, you're not going to have problems, or it's not going to crack as easily, or whatever. Yeah, can I ask a question though? On this baffles me. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe I'm just an old man and I don't get it. But hands up, let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments if you use an iPhone or an iPad without a cover. Because I walk the streets of Adelaide and I see people, and yes, they're mostly people younger than me, and they're walking around with their phones like this, and they're just like, hey, I got my phone, and there's clearly no screen protector on there, there's clearly no case, and I'm thinking, you're carrying around a piece of $2,000 glass that if you drop on its corner, that will never be the same again. Now, is this a form over function thing that I just don't get because I'm an old man? I don't know. But I don't think that, putting it in a case like this that's going to protect it, and putting a thin, transparent piece of glass on the front to protect the $2,000 glass that you paid for, spending $50 to protect it like that, is that looking significantly worse? Am I just completely out of it? So let me know. If you don't use a cover or a case with your iOS devices, and you have a reason for that, if the reason is just, I like it because it looks cooler and it's nice and thin and shiny, maybe that's it. I don't know. I personally don't get it. But then again, I don't get why people walk around talking on their phones like this instead of this. Is it that they've never used a real phone, so they don't know that you actually put it up to your ear? But they're not on speakerphone, they're just talking to their friends like this. Anyway, Everyone's going to be like, old man. I need to start a new series, Old Man Pete's Weekly Whinge, where I just talk about how things were in the old days. When I was a kid, we used 4-track tape recorders. We didn't have these new fandangled iPhones. So what have we got? So we've got a faster processor. We've got better and extra cameras. The front camera's got like an update, so it's got a 12 megapixel camera. It can now do 4K video on the front facing cameras, so like yay, 4K selfie videos, I guess. Um, I'm looking through the list here and just nothing is jumping out. Oh, it comes in green. You can get a green phone now from iPhone from from Apple. That's cool. They did talk about the battery life, and what did they say? You get an extra 3 hours or 4 hours of battery life compared to the iPhone 10s. And I'm like, okay, so it means it might actually last the whole day. Instead of having to put it on charge at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, I might actually get home. I won't have to carry a mobile battery with me everywhere I go. That'd be kind of cool. 3D Touch is gone, so this is an interesting one. So who likes 3D Touch? So they've actually removed 3D Touch. So the iPhone 10R, they moved from 3D Touch to Haptic Touch, and everyone sort of thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's just a cut down feature, but it's actually been pretty clear that 3D Touch is going away. So 3D Touch is the ability to press and then press harder, and you get sort of a different set of menus. And I don't really use it that much. You can use it for some functions in Garageband for some of your keyboards and your instruments. You can use it for that. I don't tend to use it much, but they're moving to this Haptic Touch, which is what they used in the iPhone 10R. I don't think it means much or anyone's going to care particularly, but yeah, it's just interesting. It's funny that they don't really talk about that because Apple don't like to talk, because they came out with the iPhone, was it 7? Oh no, it was the 6 even. The 6S, I think, had 3D Touch. And they sold it this cool new feature. It's going to be the future of touchscreens, and then it kind of died, and then they just don't talk about it anymore. Anyway, other interesting thing is, so in terms of the screen, so there's two different types of screen technologies. Without getting too geeky on this, there's LCD screens and there's OLED. So LCD screens, like your classic screen, like on your iPhone 7 here. OLED screen is on the iPhone 10s. Now the 10R had an LCD screen. That was one of the main differences between the 10s and the 10R. And the new iPhone 11 is going to have an LCD screen as well. So the Pro and the Pro Max get the OLED display. The iPhone 11 gets an LCD screen. So that's an interesting one as well. So they really are, I think they wanted to keep the price down. What is it, $6.99 retail? And it's like advertising at $3.99 if you trade in and give them your second born child or whatever. So yeah, they're really pricing that iPhone 11 as very much an entry level, and I think they wanted to cut it down so that they could compete with some of these lower end, well, not lower end, but lower price, higher end Android devices. So I think they're getting kind of murdered in that mid to low price point bracket, and they wanted to try and find something that could bridge the gap there. So that is where it's at. So yeah, if there's anything else on the iPhone 11 that you find interesting or that you wanted to chat about, let me know here in the chat. And yes, we'll go into the iPads in a moment. I'll just see if anyone has has some comments. Yay, green! Yes, that's basically the exciting thing. It's green. All right, now this might help us out, Chrissy. 13.0 comes out the same day as iPhone 13.1 comes out on the 30th. Basically what happens was Apple couldn't fix all the bugs in time for 13. 13.1 is almost like a hot fix. That makes total sense. Okay, I'm going with that as the official word. And if anyone says, Pete, where'd you get your source? I'm going to say Chrissy in the live chat said so. And that's why. Let's talk. We've got a few people talking cases here. We always get an OtterBox Defender case before we even open a new iOS device. It's big, but it keeps devices very safe. Yep, I'm the same. Like I told you, I got this iPhone 7 for random reasons that we won't go into now. And yeah, before I even opened the box, I went to Officeworks, our local office supplier, and I bought a nice, Japanese glass protector here for like $20 because, again, people are like $20 for a screen protector, $1,000 if you break the screen. And then, yeah, just this nice tough case, this Energizer one that just does the job. Nice corner protection there, so if it hits the ground, it's going to bounce okay. So yeah, I'm the same, but I don't really get why you wouldn't. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, so yeah, Chrissy, I'm 18 and I have my iPhone 10R in a 30-pound OtterBox case. So there you go. You are a sensible 18-year-old, Chrissy. But yeah, ask your friends and then let me know why they don't have cases on their phones. And I don't know, I don't get it. It's because they're young and they haven't broken a device yet. I broke my iPad Air 2 because of that case on everything now. There you go. Maybe it is a learning thing. Although maybe not, because maybe they just don't care. Because the other thing I see is so many people walking around with giant cracks on their screens. You can barely peer through. They're like scrolling their Instagram like this because they can't actually see most parts of the screen because it's just shattered to pieces. So, yeah, it's a weird thing. I know I'm like pigeonholing and judging everyone here. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it's just a weird thing. I don't get it. It's like that. It's that predictably irrational thing. Like you think rational behavior, humans rational. Let's not break our expensive stuff. But then, yeah, people do things like that. It's very weird. Ultimato. I use my iPhone case less in the past for about a week or 2 weeks. I don't even know how I didn't drop it. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I maybe it's because I'm old and jittery, but yeah, I couldn't imagine. I do drop my phone frequently. I use it a lot, and I drop it not frequently, but I have dropped all my phones various times, and thankfully, I haven't had a significant break. Well, I've had a couple, but yeah, nothing. That would have been a lot worse if I didn't have a protector on there. A guy I work with never used a case. He feels it hides the beautiful phone, and I think maybe that's what it is. Like maybe they think that's, and again, maybe it's because I'm old, but maybe having something like this, because like if you look at the back of that, maybe that is. Oh, hello Siri. I didn't remember talking to you. But yeah, maybe they want to be seen like on their phone like that, and that's way cooler with the nice shininess and the silver backing than putting it in something like that, and then you just look generic and you look like well. But wouldn't you be anyway? Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Yes, Tech 21 cases. Yeah, they're usually pretty good. I like that. Gino says, I have protectors on all my devices. It sounds like, and this doesn't surprise me in the slightest, but it sounds like my viewers and audience here and the Studio Live Today community are a bunch of very clever people. So, yeah. So, Chrissy, adding to my iOS comment is beta testers went from iOS 13 beta 8 to 13.1 beta 1, which was weird, and we never got the final version of 13.0. Oh, there you go. So maybe there's some interesting things coming out in 13.0 that they're actually going to release. Very, very strange. Alrighty. This question. So I wasted money on a 10S Max. I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. I think that, and I've said this before, maybe earlier in the stream, that I've got so much use out of this over time that if I waited till now and bought the new one, I would have lost all the time I've been creating with my 10S. And it's still an awesome phone that I'm really enjoying using. So I think it's totally fine. This is an interesting one. Do you like or dislike the weird camera design? So this is interesting, and what I might do, in case you haven't seen it, because let's be honest, not everyone's checking it all out, but let's have a quick squiz. Let's bring up the screen here, and I'll show you what these actually look like. So we'll share my screen, we'll throw it up there. So this is what we're talking about. So this is a bit weird. Like I'm no design expert by any stretch. Let's just zoom in on this sucker. But this is the camera setup, right? It's like 3 lenses like that. It reminds me of those old telescopes that you get when you're on lookouts and things and you're looking out in sort of tourist areas. It's kind of like that, isn't it? Like you got your flash and your light there. You've got the 3 different lenses there, and it's in this sort of big bezeled box of weirdness. Like I don't quite get it. Like Samsung phones have got a similar camera layout, but they don't look like this. They don't look kind of so clunky as that. Let's come down and have a look. So there's the iPhone 11 ones. So you just got the 2 cameras like that, which is a similar sort of setup to this. But again, you got like this, that's at least a little bit neat, yeah. Like that's got the thing there. It doesn't look as bad as this. This is again got a big box. It's almost like they made it look the same so that they could have room as if you were going to have the 3rd camera, but then you don't have it. Wouldn't that make you feel bad? You don't have that? And there's the Apple Watch. But yeah, if you hadn't seen that, let me know. Do you like the 3? Looks like it looks like Blinky, the 3-eyed fish from The Simpsons. If you're a Simpsons fan again, yeah. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as. Let's see if we can find a picture of Blinky, the three-eyed fish. We're getting a little bit into the weeds here, but yeah, don't you think? Don't you think that this is? There's Blinky, and there's the new iPhone. Yes, three eyes, just as weird. Anyway, there you go. That's like the third Simpsons reference I've had today. I've been watching a lot of Simpsons lately. I've been encouraging my 9-year-old daughter to watch Simpsons, which makes me a terrible parent. How are we for time? 11 minutes. This should be just enough time to talk about the iPad. So we've covered a lot of this already, but we're going to jump in and talk about iPads. So here's where it's at the moment. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go to studiolive.today.com/iPad, and we'll go through what we currently have and then what the updates are going to be. So if you go to studiolivetoday.com/iPad, my iPad buyer's guide updated June 2019 with iPadOS compatibility. Oh, there you go. I'm more up to date than I thought I was. But what I do have is my 2.0 version, which I'll update. Might even update it to a 3.0 because I think we've got a lot of changes I need to put in there. So we'll come and click on this one. And yes, it's pretty sort of basic, simple sort of layout. Whoa. Zoomed in, zoomed out a little bit. But what this is at the moment is all the different iPads from first gen right up to iPad Pro third gen, including the latest iPad Air. And you can see there that I'm a bit facetious. I call it the iPad Air 3, the 2019 iPad Air. So this is a nice little compatibility guide that shows you what everything does. And I don't have RAM on here. I should add that in. But because I've got like music creation on the mind, I put a lot of things up here about whether it will run the latest iOS version, whether it will run iPadOS, will it run the latest version of Garageband, can you use live loops, can you use Alchemy Synth, all of those sort of things. Does it have 3D touch? None of them do. And then the storage sizes, so the minimum, the maximum storage, and importantly, the model numbers, so that if you're shopping around for a second-hand one, you can actually find the model number, the one that you actually want to get there. So I will be updating this. Yes, it's going to get even bigger because what we're going to have now, you can see here we've got the regular iPads. So we're going to have now what am I going to put here? It'll have to be the iPad because we haven't had anything called the iPad since the iPad 4, basically, since the 4th gen, which is the they're down here, 2017, 2018. So it's going to have to be iPad 2019, and then there's going to still have the iPad Air there, so it'll slot in here between the 2018 and the 2019, and that'll be the only change for the iPad. So that one won't be too particularly hard, and then I'll make sure I update up here which ones are iPadOS compatible, which, we'll be able to do. So if you want to check out that, just go to studiolivetoday.com/iPad, and I think, there's links down here to, where you can actually pick them up. I need to link in my video as well, because I have a whole video about how to do this, which is not linked on the iPad Buyer's Guide, which is a bit crazy because this is a video channel. Anyway, let's go back and talk. I've lost my cursor. There I am. Let's go back and talk about what has changed here and what is new in this new iPad. So, yes, it's 10.2 inches, which is the weirdest thing I found, because if they're using all the same internals as the 2018, but they have to have a slightly bigger screen, wouldn't that mean they have to completely redevelop it? Like, wouldn't you put the newer chip in there if you were going to go to the effort of completely changing the space? Or maybe the board and everything is exactly the same. They've just gone boop and just left everything the same. Who knows? So 10.2 inches, it's got a keyboard via the smart connector. So that's those sort of 3 little dots connector that you have on the iPad Pros. So that's a thing. Again, if you wanted to get that nice Apple keyboard connector case thing, you can actually do that with the iPad, the new iPad. You can't do that on the older iPads, or I think even the Air. I don't think the Air has the keyboard connector either. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it has support for the Apple Pencil, but the first generation one. So not the cool one that you can charge by just kind of clipping to the side and magnetizing onto any of the little charging spots. But no, the one that was clunky that you had to plug in and charge via Lightning, that was always flat and that never really worked that well. So I'm really selling it here, aren't I? Sorry, Apple. So what is this? Well, it's a 2018 iPad that's slightly bigger and has a keyboard connector. So the chip that they're using there is still the A10 Fusion chip, which is the same one from the 2018 iPad. So you're not getting any performance boost there. You've got the Bluetooth 4.2, like the old version of that. So really, if you are, like I said, if you're looking to update and you're on the budget and you've got an old iPad, especially if you've got an iPad Air or you've got an iPad fourth gen. So if you've been hanging on, you've been like clinging to your iPad Air or your iPad fourth gen, then grabbing the new iPad for $329 with 32 gig, you get the iPadOS 13.1. You know you've got new hardware, you get the 12-month Apple warranty, you get all of those things, and everyone's happy. What I actually think, though, what I think a lot of folks, including myself, may do, is actually the good news is that when you come in here and you start looking at some of the older iPad Pros and even the iPad Air 2, and then what I'll probably do is update this because I think with iPadOS coming out, I don't know that I'd say that the best all-rounders are the Air 2. The Mini 4 probably still is, but the Air 2, that probably shifts up to the 2018 or maybe even the 2017 iPads. And then the best budget entry level, that probably becomes the iPad Air 2, just so that you can continue running iPad OS. iPad Mini 2 and 3 are still usable. They won't get iPad OS, but for entry level. And then performance wise, yeah, I think the iPad here, this one needs to change to the iPad Air because I think if you want performance, you do want a Pro or the new Air, which I'm gonna call the Air 3 just because it makes sense, Apple. And I think that would be the way to go. So yeah, the new iPad, is it going to change the world? Not so much. Doesn't really have a whole lot going for it. But what I do love is the price, and I think it's going to mean that someone that's not had an iPad before or that needs an upgrade or is still rocking like my dad, for instance, who has the iPad 2 that he still uses, still works fine for him, but that's going to sort of completely be obsolete soon. So for him, getting something like that may actually be a good option. Bigger screen, slightly better processing power, could be good to go. Alrighty. If you have any questions about any of this, make sure you drop those in the comments. Let's just loop back around and see if we have any additional one. Bubba, hello to you. Good to see you here as always. The spinning fidget. That's what it is. It's the fidget spinner, isn't it, Brian? So let's just do if you don't know what a fidget spinner is, because I probably wouldn't if I didn't have all the children. It looks like this. Yeah, the fidget spinner. There you go. I don't know. I didn't know that there was an actual one. Yeah, so they look like that. So there's the fidget spinner. That's what they look like. And then, if they were smart and it was like 3 years ago, Apple could have like integrated a fidget spinner into the camera of the phone, and that would have been really cool. Yeah, the spinning fidget design for the win. Funnily enough, one of them is called a telephoto lens. Yes, so you got your telephoto, your wide angle, and your other one. Regular. Cool. Hornets and praying mantises. Yeah, that's probably another thing. Amaracea. I'll get it right eventually. So Raphael says, when will iOS 13 release? I'm waiting for my iPad Air 2 to update. So yes, what we've been discussing is September 30th is when we'll get the iPadOS, which from what Chrissy here on the stream is telling me is the 13.1 version of iPadOS. So if you've got your iPad Air 2, that should drop around then. Keep an eye on the channel, of course, because as soon as it drops, I will let you know. So an interesting one here, and I know a lot of people agree with you. I do wish that Apple would bring the Mac versions of Imovie and Garageband to the iPads. Yes, a lot of them have the specs to run them and would make content creation a lot better. Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting one because obviously the touch screen gives you a lot of different functionality on the iPad and the iPhone for things like GarageBand and iMovie. Now that we've got mouse support, keyboard support, I think, yeah, there's definitely a case for iPhone case, a case for having more desktop capabilities and more desktop type apps. But what I think will happen is that I don't know if they'll separate out the iPad versus the iPhone version of some apps. I think they definitely will for some. But yeah, I think you'll see some more desktop features coming into some of your iOS apps. And someone else has already answered Raphael's question before I did. Question here, is LumaFusion worth the money? Yes, I 100% think it is. So I use LumaFusion for all of my editing, and believe it or not, I edit every video you see here on Studio Live today. That's not a live stream like this that I'm using my PC for. I use this. I use my phone. So I shoot a lot of it on my phone. I also use my webcam sometimes. I do use my DSLR. I bring all of that audio and video footage and put it onto here using Audio Share Wi-Fi drive, and then it's all edited on here. I do that so that I can edit anywhere. I can edit while I'm walking around carefully, and I edit just when I get some free time, commuting, waiting for things, and yeah, it's super, super handy and convenient. So that is one thing that I do a lot of. So LumaFusion is great for that. It's about a $30 app here. I think it's about $20 US. I would highly recommend it. It does really good things. Carlito, and yeah, and I should do a video in more detail about my editing process and give you some more. So hello to you, Carlito. I'm going to get the iPhone 11 Max Pro 512 gigabyte very soon. There you go. And you know what? If you're in the market, go for it. Do it. If you got the budget and you're in the market for it, it's not that it's a bad device. Like I'm saying all these things, I love my 10s, and if I didn't have this and I was buying one right now, I would buy the 11 Pro. So there you go. Yes. We'll continue on here. So Bubba says I'm running 13 beta on my 19.7 inch Pro, 12.7 inch, hopefully, and love the file management. How cool would a 19 inch iPad Pro be? Wow, that would be massive. Love it. And do you know if there's any new GarageBand coming out? No, we don't, and no, probably not. And yes, Bubba has corrected, 12.7 inch. Still pretty cool. All right, we are right on the 1 hour mark, are we? Yes, we are. So we are going to have to go before I turn into a pumpkin. I wanted to say thank you for all of those that have been here live. You have given some great additional information, asked some great questions, and provided some great content. For those that have been here live, if you've enjoyed the show, got some value out of it, if you hit the like button, that tells me that I should make more videos and more content like this. If you're watching on the replay, I love you just as much. All you need to do is go and hit the like button if you got value, and leave me a comment as well. There's a few questions we've asked here. Do you use a case or a cover on your iPhone or iPad? Let me know that. And what device would you use? If you could choose one, Mac, iPad, or iPhone to create with, which one would it be? Don't forget, you can go to studiolivetoday.com. I've got my iPad guide, my iPhone guide, my gear guide, and you can join the mailing list where I send out semi-regular email updates. You can also go to Patreon, patreon.com/PeteJohns if you want to support me there, and check the links in the description for all of the other things that are going on. Thank you everyone for your time again today. I'll see you next time.